This is America, and we can make a competition out of anything. Anything. Even bird watching. Today on Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, we'll see just how carried away things can get when the competition heats up. There are rules to this about what you can count and what you can't count. It can't be dead.
Right.
It's Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket, and this is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. A radio show on birdwatching runs the risk of being really, really boring. But what if we throw in a sleepless night, gallons of coffee, a car chase, and a perilous march toward victory or humiliation? Every year, several teams in the area compete to see which one can find the most species of birds in one day. It's called a birdathon, or a big day. It means charging around from place to place, from woods to marshes to mudflats to blueberry barrens. It means stopping only long enough to take care of basic bodily functions. It means going from exhilaration to frustration and back again. And this year's journey is about to begin at 1:30 in the morning. Today's show is brought to you by Old Town Trading Post, Dysarts, Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, Van Raymond Outfitters, O'Neill's Power Equipment, and EBS. Here's the way it works. Teams start at the dead of night in order to find owls and other nocturnal birds like whippoorwills and woodcocks. Sometimes songbirds start singing even before the sun is up. Everyone in the group must positively identify each species before it can be counted. But you don't have to see it. It counts if you can identify the sound. There are other rules, and we'll get to those. The team you are about to follow consists of me and my wife Sandy, Linda Powell from Skowhegan, and Julie Keene, who you might know as a veterinarian at VZ Vet. Our team is called the Cardinal Sins. And here we go. It's 1:30 in the morning. We've just left the house. We have to go pick up the fourth member of the Cardinal Sins. Just checked the radar, and you should know the Cardinal Sins have a long history of getting rained on every time we try to do this. Just looked at the radar. There is mist all around us, but not directly on top of us. There is a storm front heading this way, but dissipating as it comes. We have no idea what the rain's going to do to us today.
Scare us.
Yeah. But it's 1:30 in the morning. Our driver has had no sleep at all. What could possibly go wrong? 2:30 in the morning. We have a saw-wet owl right off the bat. We're on the county road in Milford, cruising, listening and looking for owls. And an oven bird. It always seems like an oven bird answers the owl call first thing in the morning. Much like turkeys. At night, we'll sort of listen and hoot at a barred owl. Anyone else getting mosquitoes?
Yep.
Yeah.
Can we close windows?
Yeah. So it's 2:41 in the morning. There's that moment when you get out of the car in the dead of night, total darkness, and realize you probably parked next to a moose. Because as we get out of the car, the brush is crashing in the woods next to us. Probably a moose, could have been a bear, could have been a wolverine. It's now 2:42 in the morning. We have a grand total of 3.
3?
3. What, we got saw? Oh, 2. Sorry, once we get into the big numbers, I lose track. $2:51 in the morning, we have barred owl.
And a mystery bird.
And a mystery bird. Where does that go in the checklist? 3 o'clock in the morning, we're still at 3 birds. 2 owls and 1 oven bird. Things are not going well on top of everything else. I'm not using my usual ball cap. Wearing a different hat that everybody says makes me look like Gilligan. Is Bob Denver even still alive?
No.
No? What happened to
Crashed
him?
his plane.
Oh. Well, John Denver crashed his plane. Bob
Yeah.
Denver, Gilligan.
Oh, no, he died recently, too.
Oh.
Yeah.
3:15 in the morning. We just added our, fourth species. Swamp sparrow. At 3:15 in the morning. Trills behind us. No great horned owl yet. Night is young. Day is younger. And we're speeding down the Stud Mill Road. Fireflies are out, which I think is kind of early.
That is neat.
Yeah. Clearly a relatively warm night. It's 55 degrees. Drizzle has, for the most part, stopped
For now.
Okay, 3:23 in the morning. We got common nighthawk
White-throated sparrow.
and white-throated sparrow, and also a second saw-whet owl. It's like some years we can't get them at all.
Right.
Now we're at 2.
Can we do a karaoke?
Exactly. That's what I was like. Can we just use an owl, like a wild owl,
Yeah.
owl card?
An owl chit for next
Exactly.
year.
That's what I said.
I think what we need is a good owl movement.
Boo, boo.
At this point, the team has been at it for 2 hours. We're doing okay, but not great. Even though it's overcast and damp, the horizon is getting brighter. This time of year, the sunrise is so early that you need all the night birds quickly. We've got 2 owls, which is good, but we're still missing 1 owl, and we're still missing some usually easy birds at night, like woodcock and snipe. And every time we get out of the car, the mosquitoes are swarming worse than in previous years. Every birdathon has its sudden change of strategy, based on conditions and totals, and we're just about to make such a change. Exactly 4 a.m., we're at Leonard's Mills. I hope security doesn't find us. Is there actually a smooth road in Maine right now? So we actually got whippoorwill at the end of the Stud Mill Road and decided to make a slight change of plans and head over to look for rails at the Leonard's Mills area, but didn't get them. Had another barred owl. Still looking for great horned owl. We did have, common yellowthroat, red-winged blackbird, bunch of alder flycatchers, and 1 eastern kingbird going over and calling even though it's not even sunrise yet. So our list isn't hopeless. And actually, the sky has actually brightened. There's no clouds over us. 4:13 in the morning. We're just leaving Leonard's Mills parking lot where we had eastern phoebe, peewee, eastern wood peewee, veery, pine warbler, black-throated blue warbler, northern parula, robin. It's our first robin of the morning. And lots of bats. Go bats. It's just before 5 a.m. We're cruising back to the Stud Mill Road. We actually swept the 2 owls we most needed, barred owl. Mourning doves. There are a couple mourning doves. That just increases our count. So onto the Greenfield Road, onto the Stud Mill Road in a moment, and we think we're at 32 species right now. It's not even 5 a.m. We've already seen 32 different kinds of birds, which is okay, but there's the glaring omissions, the ones you really hope to have by now, like Wilson snipe and American woodcock, the ones we get up at 1 in the morning to get. So far, we're missing several of them. So you get to a point even before 5 in the morning worried about the ones you missed. Just got a scarlet tanager. We hopped out of the car next to a little wetland, heard it, and then ran back to the car because there's a plague of mosquitoes out there of biblical proportions. But it's 5:07, and we've just, I think we're up to 40 now. No, not 40. No. Must be 34, thereabouts. Let's take a break while I add these up again. You're riding along in a birdathon. A team of 4 people started the day at 2 a.m., trying to find more birds in one day than any other team competing under the auspices of Maine Audubon locally. There are some folks crazy enough to do it statewide, and some of them are completely nuts.
Yeah, we had ridiculous ideas. We were thinking about buzzing the coast and trying to get great cormorant from the air and some other silly stuff like that. Thank God it was really foggy on the coast. The pilot said, no way we're doing that.
This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. Welcome back to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. Of all the competitions on the face of the planet, the idea of a bird-a-thon is a little wacky. Like most thons, it's a fundraiser. People pledge a certain amount per bird. But to be honest, this whole thing has gotten pretty competitive over the last 15 years. Some teams are out to win. My team, the Cardinal Sins, won it last year with a total of 127 birds found in one day. This year we're shooting for 130, so back to the race. 5:11, we've added pileated woodpecker just at the last pond, drumming deeply in the background. Nashville warbler was just down the road, and we just got chestnut-sided warbler right over the marsh. So I believe we're at 39 and counting. It's 5:11, and we have 39 species. We got a long way to go. Okay, into the car.
You mean the Tibet?
Yes, that is what I mean. Chibunk, Tibet, whatever.
Chibunk from the yellow.
Yeah.
I've always said Tibet, but
For me,
Oh,
it's
yeah?
Tibet. Yeah.
I always
Who
think
says
Chibuk is
Chibunk?
least.
No,
Yeah,
not
well-
Tibet.
now which is it, Chibunk or Tibet?
Tibet. All the way.
Tibet. At the Sunkay stream, we got the Cape May, which is probably the only one we're going to get all day, and a black-billed cuckoo, which is also probably the only one we'll get all day.
Clear.
Yeah, really. Two very hard birds, and we got them both, and it's, 5:35 a.m. And by the way, we were treated to both mosquitoes and black flies.
Yes, the black flies are awake.
Yes. So I know I paid with a couple of nips. Right, so we just came out of Ash Landing, pretty much at a dead run. There's no wind this morning. It's 55 degrees, which is relatively warm for early June, so the mosquitoes are out in force every time we get near water anywhere. They were bad in there, but so what? We picked up Blackburnian warbler, great crested flycatcher, common grackle, and golden crown kinglet. So 4 more go on the list, and it's only 5:45 in the morning. Let's stop it right there. Time for a better explanation of what this is all about. There actually is some organization to all of this, and there are rules and stuff, and the guy who can explain that is Doug Hitchcox. He's Maine Audubon staff naturalist. Welcome to Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, Doug.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you coordinate Maine Audubon's birdathon programs, although no one would ever call what I do coordinated. You did one already a couple of weeks ago, didn't you?
Yeah, we went out on the 17th. We go a little early down here trying to take advantage of a lot of the migrants that'll be coming through. So some early returning nesting birds and also migrants that'll be just stopping over briefly that day.
Yeah, Southern Maine tends to get a bigger count list only because you do it at a time when some of our warblers are like flying by. We have a lot of northern forest warblers that go up in the spruce forest, like Cape May warbler, bay-breasted, that will sort of settle into Portland. You can count them and then send them up to us.
Exactly.
How many teams were down there participating in Maine Audubon Southern Maine activities?
In Southern Maine, I believe there were around 10. We had 2 teams that were covering a lot of space, really going for the absolute highest count possible, but there were a lot of teams, especially from the York County chapter, that were just focusing in York County, which is a fun way to do it, to kind of restrict yourself even more and see how many species you can get.
Yeah, I've done that in the past where I was confined to like Piscataquis County. And in our own chapter in the greater Bangor area, we tend to limit ourselves to about Bangor and maybe over to the coast, but not venture south where you can get a bigger list. So it does make local birding more interesting activity. Do you have any recollection how the whole concept of birdathons started?
I don't know how it started. In Maine, at least, I think you could go back to in New Jersey. They've been doing the World Series of Birding for a while now, and it's a great fundraiser for them. But I imagine as far back as you can go, people have probably been trying to see as many species in a given time period as they could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last year, for instance, my team actually took our inter-chapter competition with a count of 127. which is actually a little low for a winning count in this area. But again, it rained last year too.
Absolutely. I mean, the team I had, we're out at 2 a.m. In the pouring rain, and we ended with 122 species, which for the area we covered, 150 would have been expected or low.
Oh yeah, that's pathetic.
Yeah, and it was just Biddeford Pool, a true hot spot where we should have walked out of there with 15, 18, maybe even 20 warblers. We had 6. And that was one of each. It was really slow going that morning.
Oh boy. Well, birdathons are really a different form of birding because the emphasis is very different. You don't stop and admire a bird; you just get it and go.
No, there's absolutely no appreciation that day.
A lot of it is done by ear. For those folks who can recognize what a bird is when it's singing, we don't even look at it.
Right. We had a little trouble with that. There was a bobolink up in Augusta. Late in the day, these bobolinks were singing over this field, and we kept hearing this alder flycatcher calling. And we finally, trying to track it down, and there was a bobolink, which they actually, they learned their song, and there must have been an alder flycatcher nesting next to this bird when it was learning its song, because it would give a perfect alder flycatcher call before going into the jumble that is their normal song. So we heard an alder flycatcher that day, but never heard one that we could actually count.
Yeah, I actually had a mockingbird, and you know how good they are at mimicking. He did He did an absolutely perfect alder flycatcher, but like most mockingbirds, it'll repeat it 5 times, so you know.
Well, you could just hang out around a mockingbird and get 40 or 50 species for the day right there.
We actually joked about that. So when you plan your route, you have a different strategy down in the southern Maine area than we would in northern Maine because our tides tend to be a little higher. And, I've got one spot that if I don't hit it exactly right, there is no shore.
Right.
What is your planning strategy when you're tooling around Portland, over to Cape Elizabeth or Scarborough Marsh?
Yeah, so it's really funny because you have kind of different opportunities for different birds at different locations. So the Scarborough Marsh, if you've got a low tide, they're going to be lots of shorebirds are going to be feeding out in mud flats down at Pine Point. If you can't get there for that low tide, then you can count on the high tide, pushing shorebirds up into the marsh down at Biddeford Pool. So even though the tide might not be perfect for the day, you can usually work around it by changing your route a bit. And one of the biggest factors for us was trying to get into the Sanford Sewerage water treatment facility. They had all sorts of cool ducks, blue-wing teal, great scaup, all these things that are pretty difficult for us to get in southern Maine in mid-May. And they were all hanging out at these ponds. So we had, they're only open for an hour and a half on the weekend. And so we had this very narrow window where we had to make a pretty large detour to get there. And of course, by the time we got there, the gate was closed, even though it was half an hour earlier than we thought it would be closed. So that's also threw a little wrench in our route for the day.
Kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
There are rules to this about what you can count and what you can't count. It can't be dead.
Right.
What other rules do you advocate?
It can't be dead. It has to be free flying. So you can't tie down any birds until the day of your birdathon. Certainly, all wild animals. There's there's some species like bobolink, northern bobwhite. Bobwhites are released in Maine for hunting purposes, and they're not considered an established species in the state. So we've had birdathons where you've got this bobwhite calling, loudly and clearly. There's no question what it is, but technically you can't count it.
Somebody sent me a photo of a chukar yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Which is it's like an Asian game bird that is used by hunters over here. And he said, "What is this?" And I had to laugh because I knew it wasn't one of our birds.
And there's a fun rule that adds a little more skill to it, where everyone in the team should be able to independently identify the bird. So you can't just hire an all-star to show you around for the day and have them, tick everything off. Everyone should be able to, look at the bird and know what it is, and it's actually 95% of the birds have to be seen by everyone. Mm-hmm. If you want to get really technical with some of the official rules. And so it's always fun, at the end of the day, if 3 of the 4 people have seen a red-tailed hawk, then you have to, take a quick trip down 95 and try to get one sitting on the side of the road. And we always refer to that as cleaning up a dirty bird.
Another thing you probably can't do is have scouts working for you. You can't send somebody out to go find your cool bird and then call you on the cell phone.
Right. You can up until the time you start. So you can use any information you want to plan your route and, have people let you know where, a nest might be. But on that day, it's all you. You can't have any emails or texts coming in from any other teams.
Can you somehow provide false information to other teams?
Sure.
All right, now we're talking. That's Doug Hitchcox, staff naturalist from Maine Audubon down in Falmouth. In a moment, we'll get back to the Birdathon. My team went out at 2 in the morning Wednesday, June 4th. When we took a break with Doug a moment ago, we weren't much past 7 a.m. That's where we'll pick it up in a moment as Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine continues on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. It's all sports all the time on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket, except for 1 hour a week when we take it outside and really explore our state. Today's subject, competitive birdwatching. Huh? Well, perhaps you've seen the movie The Big Year, starring Steve Martin, Owen Wilson, and Jack Black. Or maybe not. The movie bombed in 2011. But it was about 3 guys trying to see the most birds in North America in 1 year. A big day is an attempt to see the most birds in 24 hours. This Birdathon is underway. And when last we checked in, the team called the Cardinal Sins was on the Stud Mill Road east of Milford at 7 a.m. The Stud Mill Road is a favorite place in our Birdathon route because it's got a lot of mixed forest. It starts out pretty normal in Milford and then rapidly becomes full of spruce about 5 miles up. Plus there are marshes, streams, and wetlands. That makes for a lot of bird variety, and you can rack up a good score over just a few miles. So, back to the action. Just past 7 o'clock, we're just past the Horseback Road on Stud Mill Road. Just about to cross the bridge over a boggy area. What number are we at right now? 61. 61. We have just broken out cheese sticks, coffee, spilled some of it, and now we're heading out towards Alligator Lake, but with some more stops along the Stud Mill Road. Currently overcast, 55 degrees, still buggy as all get out. All right, it's 10 minutes before 8 o'clock. The last few minutes we've been discussing Big Bang Theory in previous episodes. That's to assuage our sadness that we didn't get Gray Jay at the last spot. Did get our Magnolia Warbler, one of the most common warblers, and it's 10 minutes of 8 o'clock before we finally get one. But that puts us up somewhere around 65. We're at 65 species as we approach 8 o'clock this morning. Still the Stud Mill Road, heading down not too far from the turn to Alligator Lake. 8:30. We're turning off the Stud Mill Road. Goodbye, Stud Mill Road. You've been good to us. Would have been nice if we gotten off the Stud Mill Road about a half an hour earlier, but we're always behind schedule. So we'll go down the road past Alligator Lake, hit the airline, go out through Du Bois. But we have some unfinished business on this road just ahead. If we're lucky, we should be getting Eastern Towhee, Bay-breasted Warbler, and we still need Gray Jay. All right, 10 minutes to 9 o'clock, we got 2 out of the 3. We got the Eastern Towhee, and we get the Bay-breasted Warbler right where we're supposed to be. Whew. What's that put us up to, about 1670? 70? Yeah, I think we're 70. Now, for those of you who have listened to this show long enough, The magic number is 100 by noon. We want to do 130 on the day. Good luck with that. But 100 by noon is sort of the benchmark that we got to get to. We're heading down the Alligator Lake Road towards...
Alligator Lake.
Yeah, Alligator Lake. Time is 9:16. We've got 2 miles left to go on what I call the Alligator Lake Road, but it's really called the Middle Branch Road. So we're on the Middle Branch Road. We've got one more wetland to check out. At the last one we just stopped at, 2 red-tailed hawks courting. Both calling to each other, swooping down at each other, swapping positions up in the tree. And by swapping positions, I don't necessarily mean a sexual reference. As far as I know, hawks only have one position.
Yeah.
As we wrap up the Middle Branch Road and we're about to enter the airline, there's one thing to pay attention to. Like basketball, there's a score, and all teams are scoring points. Unlike basketball, you don't know how many points the other teams are scoring. What you do know is that most birding teams can find 100 birds in a day and probably over 110 species. The winning team is likely to locate 130 or more. It depends a bit on the day's conditions and recent weather, and even how long the winter was. You also know what bird species you hope to find, and you know when you're missing some. So you've got a pretty good idea when you're having a good day or a bad one. Let's say, hypothetically, that you are a birdathon team, you're in Cherryfield, and you've only got 87 species so far during the day. Chances are you're being outscored. It's 11 o'clock. We're in Cherryfield. We're at 87 species with 1 hour to go to try to hit 100 by noon, and it's not looking good. Let's see. We can pick up 2 gulls, and I don't know if the water level will be down at Pinkham Bay enough to get shorebirds there yet. But certainly we can take a shot at common tern. We'll have a chance at scoters, although it's a little foggy over here at Pigeon Hill Bay. Could be just a little foggy. But 13 species in 1 hour or new ones is going to be difficult. And did I mention it's raining again? It's 11:43. I have good news and bad news. We just did Pinkham Bay, or Pinkham Hill Bay, whatever they call it, in Steuben area, and we did get greater yellowlegs, but that was the only shorebird we got, and we really needed like 3 or 4 species there. We did get common tern, Canada goose. Yes, it's almost noon, and we've been working hard to get a Canada goose, and American black duck, which leaves us still roughly, 10 to get in the next 14 minutes?
We should be at 91 now.
We
have 9 more to go.
9 more to go in the next 15 minutes.
It sounds like a telephone.
That's right. So make that telephone ring.
Laughing gulls. Oh, there's a plover. Black-bellied plover.
Black-bellied plover. We got it. No, go. You may continue.
Just keep going. Good enough.
All right, black-bellied plover. Check it off.
Just like that, huh?
Right there. That's what the birdathon is all about. We're doing 30 miles an hour, heading down toward Petitbanan. As we pass the boat landing, 3 of us simultaneously spot a bird on the beach. Smaller than a pigeon, it's gray, it's dark underneath. It's a shorebird, meaning that you usually find it on the mud flats. Most go north to breed in the subarctic of northern Canada, but a few linger here, and we just saw one. No stops, no time spent with the bird, just hurry on, because we've got to go find the next unseen species. 12:08, Pinkham Hill Bay. It's socked in with fog. Can you believe the luck? This is a spot where we really were hoping to get 3 different kinds of scoters, which are diving sea ducks. We did get black guillemots, but that was it.
No, we got the black
Well, we got the black-bellied plover, the hummingbird, yeah, I know. But
94.
all right, update from Town Boat Landing in Pigeon Hill Bay. We were able to see some scoters, and they are black scoters in the distance. So we're at 94. We're 6 short of the target for being 100 at noon. So
Not bad, 6 out of 100.
it's not bad. been this bad before.
We've been way worse.
Yeah. It's 7 minutes until 1 o'clock. We're celebrating another success. Pigeons.
And nighters.
And nighters. It's like common nighters and pigeons. At some point, you take what you can get. I mean, anyone listening right now is thinking, you guys are celebrating pigeons? But that was on top of the cannery in Prospect Harbor. Now, obviously, we weren't in Bangor early in the morning after daylight, so we haven't actually seen any of the city birds. So that pushes us up to what, like 96, I think?
Yep.
So you could say we're a little more than an hour behind schedule. Well, we've been worse. 1:50 p.m., we're at Schoodic Point. We had high hopes for Schoodic Point, and they've all been severely dashed. It's foggy, rainy, yep, spitting rain. In Erie Cove around the corner, we did have a nice, cute flock of black scoters, but we already had those, so that adds nothing to the list. We'll head to Blueberry Hill next and hope to God there's something there. Well, the good news is I just realized that I never checked off house sparrow, so we're actually at 98 species. It's 3 o'clock. We just passed through Millbridge, heading back towards Du Bois through the Blueberry Barrens via Cherryfield. Rush our way back to Bangor, stopping probably behind the airline school to look for Vesper sparrow, and then rush into town. Coming up, a real up-and-down ride to the finish line. But it's not as up and down as one Birdathon team's adventure. The state record is held by a team that went further than any other team in Maine history. Just how far would you go with this kind of lunatic competition? This is Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. It's Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. Today's episode of Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is proof that Americans can make a competition out of anything, even bird watching. In a few minutes, my team sprints to the finish line in a birdathon competition, trying to find more bird species in one day than any other local team. Locally, we'd be happy with 130. The state record is 187. And one of the guys who set the record is Bill Sheehan from Woodland, Maine. Welcome, Bill.
Hey, great to be here.
Bill Sheehan is the go-to bird guy in Aroostook County, and he holds the record for most Maine birds seen in one day. Now, what's the secret? He cheated.
Well, that's
I
a
know.
matter of opinion.
I know. Well, there's really no rule against it, I suppose. But tell me what happened.
Well, we'd been running, a group of us had been running big days for many years in Maine, and we always wanted to beat our previous record, and we got up into the 160s, and it always killed me because I was the northernmost member, and I would always go south for the big days, and we'd miss these birds that were so easy, some of them in my yard, junco and yellow-bellied sapsucker, and I was just like, oh, if only we could do them up in northern Maine, we could do, but there's just no way. There's so much time on the road and everything. And then one of our team members is friends with a pilot, a guy with a pilot's license, so he suggested half-jokingly, we ought to see about just getting a plane instead of a car for a big day.
So traditionally, the way you would do that if you were going to bird a southern Maine route is start in somewhere like Rangeley, where you can pick up some of the northern forest birds, but still not be all that far from Portland and be able to drive it. But this takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah, excuse me, a little traffic noise. The highest count previous to that, I know Luke Seitz and Eric Hines and a couple of guys did exactly that. They started up in Rangeley area, got some boreal species up there, and then worked their way south. And we wanted to do that, but we just took it a little further north.
Well, besides, there is no rule against using planes, just like there's no rule against using cars to get around and do whatever you can in 24 hours.
Yeah, we had ridiculous ideas. We were thinking about buzzing the coast and trying to get great cormorant from the air and some other silly stuff like that. Thank God it was really foggy on the coast. The pilot said, no way we're doing that. But, we started in northern Maine, and we did really well. It was a nice day, and
we actually we started at midnight and started off with a saw-whet owl and just kept cranking from there. I think we left Aroostook County around 9:30 a.m. With 120 species. And then
you had 120 by 9 a.m.?
Sure.
Oh, I'm liking you less and less.
It was pretty good. We really lucked out. We had some, we got spruce grouse and yellow-bellied flycatcher and olive-sided flycatcher and some of the spiffy tough ones up here. We really swept the warblers, all the northern warblers, quick. So
when you were talking about
helpful.
buzzing the islands to look for great cormorant, which is an offshore nester on like Seal Island, did it occur to you or the pilot that in order to get low enough to see it, you'd have to fly through a flock of seagulls?
Yeah, I think that the pilot was more rational than we were. There was, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, I suppose
we did. So yeah, in hindsight, we have a few things we know we could have done better, and still would like to get the New England record. Get into the mid 190s. We think it's doable in Maine.
It's doable, but just barely, and you would definitely need the plane. Now, as someone who's chased birds in Aroostook County and York County in the same day, what's the difference?
Traffic.
You can fly right by all those Winnebagos.
Yeah, well, up here we were on woods roads and really didn't encounter hardly any people. And then it's just things ground to a lot slower pace when we got into traffic lights and tourist traffic. And of course, we did it on Memorial Day weekend, which wasn't really good planning on our part when it comes to getting around to see piping plovers and some of that stuff. So.
Well, is it weird to bird Aroostook County while there's still snow on the ground and then chase beach birds around people in swimsuits?
I don't know. It was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know about weird. It was pretty cool. It was nice to get up in the, start a day in the boreal habitats and we had right at sunup. We stopped on a woods road and it was still mostly dark, just starting to get twilight, and we were hoping for a woodcock, and sure enough, we had some flying overhead, and we all heard them, but then they started going peent, and it wasn't just one, there was like 11 in just this little area all around us. It was insane.
Yeah.
And that was really good, and then to get the warblers, it was a real fun, and it was a big day. I'll tell you, the long hours about killed us, and Dave Ladd, one of the members, it was Lyle Brinker, Rob Lambert, Dave Ladd, and I. And Dave, we were kind of despairing at the end because we didn't meet the 95% rule, which is a rule where you have to share 95% of the birds that you observe. You can have one or two that one member sees, and we didn't have it. We were just on the hairy edge, and it was 10 o'clock at night, and we were exhausted. And believe it or not, we didn't have barred owl.
Oh, jeez.
We were standing in the woods somewhere. I don't even know where we were in York County. And Dave Ladd, just out of desperation, hooted like a barred owl, and there was nothing. And we were just like, all right, we're done. Maybe we can do something else, but we're done. And we were walking back to the car, and just as our hand touched the handle, the barred owl touched off. that gave us the 187 and put us over the 95% rule. We all heard it.
Well, last question, would you ever do it again?
Oh, yes.
That's Bill Sheehan. He and his teammates are the only humans in history to see 187 different species of birds in Maine in one day. I'm just trying to do 130, and it's not looking good. It's 3 in the afternoon, and we're not even up to 100. The Cardinal Sins Birdathon team sprints, limps to the finish line next. I'm Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine. Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. It's Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket. Even if it doesn't sound like an all-sports radio station at the moment. The Ticket dedicates Saturday mornings to being an outdoor Mainer. We'll talk hiking, fishing, hunting, paddling, everything here on Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine, including my specialty, birding. This isn't just bird watching. You're actually listening to failure as it happens. This is a birdathon, an attempt to find well over 100 different bird species in one day. Imagine what deer hunting would be like if there were over 300 different species of deer in the state. White-tailed deer, red deer, reindeer, antelope, dick. Well, the shadows are getting longer. Time is running out. DuBois Blueberry Barons, we just got the 100th bird, a bluebird. Yay! The bluebird of happiness. Of course, it's 3:20. We should have had the 100th bird 3 hours ago. Time is 3:51. We just made a quick stop at the Whalesback on Route 9 out in, what is this, Aurora? Yeah, I can never remember. And we got 3 birds real quick. There was an olive-sided flycatcher calling as we got out of the car. There was a turkey vulture on the horizon. Thank God we finally got a vulture. It would have been embarrassing to miss it. And then we had a broad-winged hawk fly by. So all of a sudden, we've knocked 3 off the list very quickly. Now we've gone from dismal to merely poor. Well, it's 4:30. We're at, it feels like 6:30. What are we up to, 104? We just stopped at Clifton Country Store on the way back towards Bangor here on the airline, and there's a rule of thumb, according to Bill Thompson, who's the editor for Birdwatcher's Digest magazine, that you're not really a birder on a big day unless you eat something that ends in toes. Cheetos, Fritos, Doritos, Tostitos. We haven't actually done that, have we?
No, maybe that's where we're going wrong.
I think maybe we're not real birders. It's 5:30. It's raining, of course. Somehow, over 20 years, we have never picked a dry day. Never. But we're, if you can believe this, driving around the Bangor Mall, looking for northern mockingbirds in the wires, waiting for a break in the rain. We'll take ring-billed gulls. Yes, we're looking for seagulls to put on the list. That'll hopefully be on the lawns over here, although I don't see any at the Bangor Mall at the moment. We'll duck behind Home Depot and see if we can see any ducks out there in the little wetland area. We are at 105 now. We managed to go into a Bangor City forest where a northern water thrush had been singing for 3 weeks, and he was, in fact, right at the exact same location. So he was there. We were able to get in there in the rain. But it's raining. Hard. Time is 5:48. We're soaking wet, but we're now leaving the Home Depot parking lot on Stillwater Avenue with 2 more birds in the list. There was a peregrine falcon sitting in the Penjajawak Marsh just behind Home Depot, sitting up there looking rather wet and bedraggled. Yeah, sort of like us. And then cliff swallows way back in the marsh. You can tell them at a big distance because they have this buffy butt patch. So we got 2 more, and we're heading for Essex Woods in Bangor. It's 7:30. We just finished Essex Woods, which is that wetland next to the highway in Bangor. And we walked all the way around it and scored 9 more birds, including green heron, which is kind of hard to find in the area. We had both Sora and Virginia rail, which is also very elusive. Cardinal, yeah, we got the cardinal. We got the downy woodpecker finally. Would have been an embarrassment if we didn't get the downy woodpecker. Well, we got the, blue-winged teal. We got the cowbird. We got the house finch. So anyway, 9 more, and that puts us up to 116 on the day, with about an hour's worth of daylight left. Well, it's 8 o'clock. We just picked up Mockingbird in the Bangor Mall. That puts us at 117. At this point, we're tired, hungry, and cranky. Not necessarily in that order. Well, some of us more than others. I did not just get cranky. I've been cranky all day. It's 9 o'clock. We're done. Altogether, 118 species in the day, which has been our average in the past for bad weather days. Usually, if it's a bad day, we can get about that number. If it's a better day than we had today weather-wise. Any last thoughts, Linda?
No, it was fun. Had a good time. Enjoyed all the company. I want to keep going. I always want to keep going.
I try to be considerate of other people, so I say, okay, when you guys say you want to be done, but I want to keep going all night.
And that's one other tradition. The first is rain. The second is my wife, Sandy, who ends every birdathon with a plea to keep going. Just one more bird. No matter how hopeless it is, just one more bird. We started at 2 a.m., and one day, just traveling between Bangor and Steuben, we managed to see and hear 118 different kinds of birds. At this point, I don't know yet which birdathon team has won, but I've got a pretty good idea who lost. Maybe they should go to a playoff format, best 4 out of 7. If re-listening to failure is your cup of tea, you'll find this show and all previous shows are on the web at 929theticket.com. Bob Duchesne's Wild Maine is brought to you by Old Town Trading Post, Dysarts, Hammond Lumber, Napa Auto Parts, Van Raven Outfitters, O'Neill's Power Equipment, and EBS. Join me next Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on Sports Radio 92.9 The Ticket.